unreasonable. It's how you have to be if you want to change things. Relentless. Tenacious. The world's children need people like that. People who see impossible as incentive to try harder. Who find one good reason to keep going in the face of 1,000 reasons to stop. So, shout out to the hardcore, because big problems need big solutions from big game players. You know the type, the determined, the persistent, the unreasonable. UNICEF, in more than 190 countries and territories, we never give up until the rights of every child are protected. Are you with us? UNICEF, for every child.
Well, there has never been a more important time to talk about leadership and change, because the world has been changed forever and leadership is more important than ever. And that is so true here in the not-for-profit space too. And that's why I'm really excited to have this conversation today. The word not-for-profit is always maybe just triggered me in some way, because it's all about for purpose. And so inside an organisation, having the operational excellence to be able to deliver at scale to make that purpose come to life is so important. Could you tell me maybe a little bit more about the journey you've been on in the last 2 years to make that happen?
Yeah, and it has been 2 years, in fact. So when I arrived, I could run my household on my mobile phone, but I could not run the business on the mobile phone. So there were so many elements of the business that were still heavily paper-based or needed a lot of hands-on, for data in and out. It was cumbersome and complicated, and it was holding back particularly our fundraising team as to what that they could actually achieve. And they had great ideas, a lot of innovation, and the systems just couldn't deliver it for them. And so we really realised, and this had been brought up before by management in the past, but there hadn't necessarily been the appetite to go in and jump in with 2 feet into this very risky space. And there's been a lot of scary stories about how projects can go wrong.
Well, I think the first thing a leader needs to do in this environment, and I'm still an L-plate leader, but really understand where the market is, where you're going to position yourself in the market. So once we had agreed that with our board, the 2 big enablers were talent and systems. So it's much easier to grow the talent because there isn't often the capex involved. In this particular case, our board was risk adverse. We got a new chair in Anne Sherry, and she just said straight away, Tony, you can't grow an organisation without growing the systems as well. I will say at that stage, I had a lot of experience out in the systems world with some of the key players. When we did a market scan, of the 3 big providers, there was only Salesforce who really said it was about not-for-profit and for purpose, and they had the product. I felt that I wasn't buying a product which was coming out of a bank and being somehow reconfigured into a not-for-profit. So we were very conscious that we are a different operating environment. We're not customers with transactions, we're donors with retention. It's subtle, but it's quite important in the not-for-profit where there are donors and donor retention. So we've found that what we lined up in a row was the right products, the right systems integrators, and the right people in-house. And this is probably the first project in 40 years, and certainly 25 years as a CEO, that I've seen has come in very successfully when it comes to a CRM implementation. And I think all of those 3 things just came together really well. I think disruption is here to stay. If it wasn't COVID, it would have been something else. And we've got to learn to live with change. This sector doesn't like change. Probably if I had to choose one fundamental difference between the people in this sector and the for-profit sector, more adversity to change. Gosh, we're always doing something different. Well, that's what life is. People don't think about change when it comes to their own careers and moving around, but organisations need to adapt faster than ever before. Now, in our case, at UNICEF Australia, we've got a new dance floor, but we can't turn up on that dance floor with the same dresses. We're going to have to keep evolving. We're going to have to be looking at a lot more product innovation now that we've got the systems to go with it. Because if we don't, our customers aren't sitting there, or our donors, with the same channels and the same products. We have to find a way to connect to them in a very, very busy world.
And I think, Sarah, you must have been doing a bit of dancing through COVID. And I can imagine it really impacted the project. And I know it was, a 2-year journey, but how did COVID impact this project? And what did you have to change and do differently based on that?
So yeah, we were working on this at the end of last year, going through a discovery process, and then before sort of turning the project on in earnest, sort of in early March, just as COVID hit, just as we were moving into these beautiful new offices, and a lot of it is actually around contingency planning and risk management. And it sounds really, really boring, but it actually really enables you to do risky things. And the system project that we did here, we had 7 different streams. We blew up all of our systems at once. I moved the IT to the cloud. We've got a new finance system. We implemented Salesforce and analytics, and all during this period where we were shut down and working remotely. And in a way, it actually helped us because the project team, could be very focused on their work. It was easier to schedule training via Zoom, but because importantly earlier on we'd had that discovery process where we'd forged these personal relationships with our vendors, and so we were able to work with AlphaSys and others really closely, had good positive relationships and leveraged that. But it was actually worked quite well. You can have virtual teams, and we were using collaboration tools to share documents, and it worked out okay.
So it's an incredible digital transformation. What's possible now that you couldn't do before?
Well, as Sarah said, I could run the business now on a mobile phone. I think that we can share great connectivity. We're part of a global brand. We can make sure that there's going to be a lot more connectivity across. We can inspire our colleagues to be part of this. But I really do believe that we have the foundation, and I'd put it back out there to Salesforce and other organisations. We have the dance floor, that there are modules further down the track, whether it be philanthropy, workplace giving, new channels into government revenues. I believe that there are much more modules that we can add on to this. If Einstein and Tableau have been the generation of 2021, what is it going to be in 2025? So we're only as good as we can find the right dance partners to really make this dance floor work.
And if I could add to that as well, so the things that we can do now is we've got a 360-degree view of our customer that we didn't have before. We can link our marketing system together with the data. The phones ring, and we know that who that is on the phone and what their history and their case has been over time. We've got data daily, so we know where we're up to in our fundraising. We know, and we can drill in with the analytics package, or Tableau now it's called, I believe, to drill into different parts of the business. And there's a whole lot of things that we haven't even dreamed up yet, but they will be possible because of the platform approach that we're using now with Salesforce, and it's really exciting.
And in this world of disruption, where we're all living hybrid and partially remote, I'm probably closer to the organisation and our supporters from my home study than I was in the organisation pre-COVID and pre this project.
So, Sarah, the future, you said before, great things and innovation can happen. If you're dreaming ahead, what's your dream for what's next?
I think it's really leveraging this analytics, getting that right, and the world's our oyster, really being able to understand, predict and plan. I mean, I am a data nerd after all, so this is where this comes from. But that can really help underpin, where we want to go, and unleashing the creativity of our marketing team. No longer do we have to, they come to us, we don't have to say, no, we can't do that. Now we can say, yes, we can.
That's going to be a great conversation, and I'm a fellow data nerd, so I'm right with you on that one. The future of leadership. I mean, clearly in this example, the role of leadership from both of you, from an amazing chair like Anne, what does the future of leadership look like for us all?
Well, I think the future of leadership for this country and Australia, particularly over the next 2 or 3 years when we recover from COVID, comes down to 3 great parts of leadership. One is leadership from our government and the public service. The second is obviously the private sector and great leadership there. But the third must be the not-for-profit sector. All 3 sectors need to step up, be much closer together than they've ever been before, because it's collectively, that's what makes Australia. There's no point in this country having a strong economy without the chassis which goes over that, which makes us distinctly Australian. That's what's going to come from our sector working with government. And I think there's a really, really great opportunity for the not-for-profit sector in the next few years.
And I couldn't agree with that more. Right now, leading through change has never been more important, and we've had a great example of that today. We have the opportunity across all sectors to build back stronger. Our planet is taking a little bit of a breath right now. As we build back, we've got to create diverse workplaces where all employees can shine and participate. We continue to help deliver services to the people who need them most. That purpose that you spoke about at the start is spot on, and it's going to take each of us taking a role in making that happen. Thank you both so much for your time today. I love this story, how much resilience and relentlessness you've all shown for bringing together that inspirational purpose that you shared with us. Thanks again.